ready for the first part of qualifying for round 9 of the Blancpain GT Series Asia. And thankfully this year, unlike last, it is a dry circuit for the drivers. We come here with 4 races in the championship, still to run. We also come here with a mighty grid, the biggest grid of GT cars ever to have raced in China, which is a real testament to SRO for the hard work that goes into building this championship. You can see what a mouth-watering grid it is as the cars pour their way down the pit lane, ready to go out onto the circuit for this first 15 minutes of qualifying. They've had the 3 practice sessions already, and now we get into the really serious business of deciding the grid for the first of the 2 races this afternoon's race. The championship being led by Patrick Niederhauser, who's had this mix of co-drivers, which is why he's on a unique score. He's ahead of Martin Kodrich and Dennis Lind, who've been winners this year. Nick Foster comes third in the championship, ahead of Martin Room and Frankie Chang, and with the pit lane emptying, a number of new teams coming in, even at this late stage of the season, including the fascinating combination now of Team Phoenix, but with Bentleys rather than Audis. There's still a lot to look for this weekend. 808 is Li Chao and Chris van der Schrift's almost late house livery Porsche, and that's going to be a competitive car, certainly in the hands of Chris van der Schrift, as you see the cars now pouring their way up through turn 4. There's the little right-hand kink in a moment at the top of turn 5, and then the speed builds as the GT4 and GT3 cars start to mingle their way in. Now, the way that qualifying works, if you follow the Blancpain GT Series Asia, you'll know this. It is 1 driver, 1 session, and you start the race for which you've set the qualifying time. So all the drivers that you're seeing now will start today's race, and the co-driver will start race 2. David Addison trackside, as you look there at the field, sweeping its way through turn 7 up towards the start of the flying lap. Dennis Lind is going to be a man to watch. Now, he's first out in number 19 Lamborghini, but I also mentioned his name because as a former Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion, you know that he's going to be quick. As far as the earlier activity of the day has been concerned, well, practice this morning managed to be trouble-free for most of the teams, and so now they can blast into this qualifying session. We've still got 1 or 2 cars, in fact, creep out. But Dennis Lind goes on to a flying lap in the number 19 Lamborghini. This car run by the FFF racing team by ACM. Dennis Lind having already been a race winner this season. So won round 6 at Suzuka. He and co-driver Martin Kodrich. As far as pole positions are concerned, Dennis Lind was on pole for the opening race of the season back at Sepang. We've had a real mix of drivers taking pole position. I think I'm right in saying that it's been a different driver in GT3, certainly every time out across the 8 rounds thus far, which goes to show how competitive GT3 has been this season. Patrick Niederhauser, who has been sharing this year with Alexander Matchell, but also with Maxim Group, and is going to be a man to watch over the course of this weekend to see whether he can build that championship lead. It may well be a Mercedes-friendly circuit, although last year the wins went to Porsche in the first race and Audi in the second. So 63, which is the Lamborghini in the hands of Marco Mappelli, and for this first session, Hiroshi Hamaguchi is the car that you're looking at the moment. That's the sister car to this, number 19, Dennis Lind's FFF racing team by ACM. Lamborghini Huracan, Dennis Lind and Martin Kodrich, who've made a pretty decent double act this year and are in the mix as far as the championship is concerned, because they are only 8 points back from Patrick Niederhauser with the Gripper and Mercedes. And a good brace of races here would certainly set them up nicely. So we have this 15-minute period in which you will get, relatively speaking, few laps. It's a real short, sharp session. As you see 81 BMW turn through, that's the car of Takeuchi Kinoshita, which has been a very rapid car within GT4 over the course of this season, because 3 wins on the bounce have gone the way of Kinoshita and Sonako Yokosho, his co-driver. There you see one of the 2 new Bentleys, this second generation of Bentley, number 6. That's the Sean Tong driven car. Now, because it's a late entrance into the championship, that's one of a number of cars not eligible for points. But Sean Tong and Jordan Pepper, a Bentley factory driver, very, very competitive indeed. You see that car running in the kind of works colours that's been prevalent in the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup this year, and also in the Suzuka 10 Hours. So we've had the first 5 minutes, and we've already got Dennis Lind being warned about track limits at turn 16, which is the last corner that brings you out onto the pit straight. You're looking at the exit of that last corner now as 23 heads up towards the timing line. Edoardo Liberati. Liberati has been a pole position driver this year, 45 there. Diving up on the inside is Naoto Takeda, and he and Takuya Shirasawa are rapid within the AM element, the AM Cup, and could win that this weekend. They've already got a healthy advantage. That could grow yet further, as you see 88 there, turning its way into turn 15. 88 being the Diana Rosario James Tang Mercedes, and 88 the AMG Driving Academy team LSH Motorsports Mercedes is another of those cars that's not eligible for points, but it's going to be fascinating to see how it goes. It's Diana Rosario at the wheel, who's not raced for a little while, but has been experienced in Asian GT. She's racing the GT race at Macau, done the Malaysian Super Series. And Edoardo Liberati, who has been, as I said earlier, a pole position winner already this year, goes quickest. You've just got a glimpse of the KTM, adding variety to GT4. Dean Kutsamidis at the wheel of it, who shares that car with Justin McMillan. Dean Kutsamidis, very experienced driver back home, but also in other Asian categories, not just concentrating on races in Australia. As 18 blasts on the KCMG Nissan of Yuki Taniguchi, which he shares with Alexandra Imperatori. Taniguchi not as quick, but the car is in the top 10, so actually going pretty well. Up to the timing line comes number 19, and that goes quickest. Dennis Lind, a 2 minute 6.063. Dennis Lind on the pole position. Behind him, 72, which is Ringo Chong in the Team iRace.win car. Ringo Chong sharing with Alex Au this weekend rather than Gilles Vanellet. Alex Au, who's moved from GT3 into GT4 for this season, sharing the car with him this weekend. But Dennis Lind, quickest now by half a second from the Absolute Racing Audi. Frankie Chang with the wheel of it. Liberati is third, Niederhauser is fourth, and then fifth it is Anthony Liu with Darrell O'Young, sixth fastest. Darrell O'Young in the Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche that he shares with Aidan Reed. So almost at the halfway point of Q1, as over the timing line goes Alexander Matschul. He's at the wheel of 888 for this first element of qualifying. That's the car that he shares with the newly crowned Blancpain Sprint champion Raffaele Marciello. And off the road has gone 71, having just been mentioning Mercedes. This is another of the new teams. It's Zhu Wei at the wheel of it, but the Anstone Racing car, not eligible for points, but I'm afraid off the road. Now, where has he gone off? Let's see. We've also got Dennis Lind having a time removed, and Patrick Niederhauser having a time removed for exceeding track limits at the last corner. So, having told you that Dennis Lind had done a 2 minute 6.063, expect some more shuffling to come in the order, I'm afraid now. Zhu Wei gets going again. So that potentially, if Dennis Lind loses that lap time, could put Frankie Chang back onto the top of the times. The order that you've got on the totem pole at the moment does not yet allow, I fear, for the laps being taken away from people. There's another of the miscreants, 999, Patrick Niederhauser, as 71, back on track, heads up towards the end of that back straight, down towards turn 14. Number 3 on a mission, that is Frankie Chang. So the Absolute Racing Audi working its way through the traffic, and on this lap 2 personal bests in the sectors for Frankie Chang, but 2 absolute bests for Dennis Lind, but then he pits. So Dennis Lind has just lost the potential of going even faster by aborting that lap coming into the pit lane. So what can Frankie Chang do as he goes across the timing line? He stays second. That lap was a 2 minute 6.397, a better time, but it keeps him second on the grid. No improvement for the Chinese driver. He's got Edoardo Liberati third fastest. We've got now just over 5 more minutes of the session to go. Number 7 Audi through, which for the moment is Andrew Kim. Car that he shares with Adderley Fong. Adderley Fong, as the quicker driver, will do the second part of qualifying, but it's Andrew Kim, who's raced for Bentley in the past, driven in the Pirelli World Challenge, the South Korean, an occasional visitor into this championship last season, goes over the timing line. He's 6th fastest, actually, doing a pretty good job, just behind Mitch Gilbert. Behind him on the road, he's 18, as you can see there, which is Yuki Taniguchi, now down to 14th as others get on with the job. including an improvement coming from Alexander Matschel, also from Hiroshi Hamaguchi's Lamborghini, and from John O'Lester up to 7th fastest now, number 27, John O'Lester and Nick Foster's car, always one to watch. Number 7 Audi, Andrew Kim into shot. So 18, the Nissan, great sounding car, the Nissan, and the sister car is 3rd fastest at the moment in the hands of Eduardo Liberati. This is the run out to turn 13, that long looping right at the top of the lap, down now towards the hairpin at 14, and then the kink at 15. It's virtually one corner, but it is separated as 2 for the purposes of the race director and the corner numbering. How's GT4 doing for the moment? Because fastest there is 81 BMW. You can see the 2 M4s have got themselves together there. Kinoshita just ahead of Max Chen, and they're trying to work together, I think, get out of the way of the GT3 cars, and then start to work together and try and tow 82 into the mix. 81 having the class pole position at the moment. 911 interview. And that's the car that Shea Davis drives, and for the moment is a long, long way off the times. So into the pit lane comes Eduardo Liberati. Next question is, what can 911 do? Shea Davis, having said that he's a long way down, has just done a proper flying lap, gone 11th fastest, so optimism for Porsche now. 999 is Patrick Niederhauser. There is the championship leader then, in the Group M car that he shares with Nico Bastien, with whom he has been a winner this year. Patrick Niederhauser has won twice with Nico Bastien. He's also had a win with Marcus Pommer, as often is the case at Group M, and with driver gradings as well. There's been a bit of shuffling. Bryce Bosey is the one that lost out because he was very, very impressive at the start of the season, was probably upgraded, and therefore couldn't race because he needed a pro with him. But anyway, sadly, Bryce Bosey's season rather unravelled because he was so good at the start of the season, and that's meant that Group M have had to shuffle drivers around. There's Andrew McPherson, just going off at another tangent, back to Lamborghinis, the Australian driver in the AMAC Motorsport car, and Andrew McPherson has Ben Porter as the co-driver. That car is to be found 24th at the moment in the hands of the AM, the lower graded driver, Andrew McPherson, who's done a huge amount of GT racing back home. Came out of the Queensland Raceway Production Sports 1 hour race back in 2012, but he's raced in Australian GT, in the Australian Le Mans Championship, Australian Touring Car Challenge, the Sports Racer Series. He's won the Valvoline Wakefield 300. He's a very experienced driver. And Andrew McPherson, as you may have gathered from the A and the Mac, is AMAC Motorsport. Sean Tong's Bentley presses on. This car, 16th. Great to have Phoenix running the Bentleys. For so many seasons associated with Audi, they run them in GT3, GT4, in the DTM, but another string to Ernst Moser's team's bow now in this Bentley squad. It's all part of the same family, of course, as you see 59 go through, which is another of the non-point scoring cars, the Audi of Jingju Sun and Burit Birambakti. Jingju Sun drives in this session. We've got 1 minute to go, and Dennis Lind remains at the top of the times. So, as the flag is imminent, onto another lap goes 59 Audi. Jingju Sun at the wheel of it. There's another car losing a lap time, which is number 28, the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari of Maurice Chen. And Dennis Lind staying out. Now, I'm still a bit nervous about his lap time, the one that he's going to have removed. Hopefully, it's not the one that's already put him onto pole position. Hopefully, it was one that was done earlier. But we will see when the times are confirmed at the end of the session. So there, into the pit lane comes Yuki Taniguchi. The checkered flag is out. Dennis Lin faster than Frankie Cheng, Eduardo Liberati third. Looking at the improvers at the very end. Well, actually, the Audi we were looking at a moment ago of Jingju Sun is an improver. Alexander Matschul is an improver. Darrell Young here in 991, rounding out the top 10. He's not yet taken the flag. He's down in Sector 1, but fractionally quicker in Sector 2. So there could be an improvement in the offing here for the Porsche of Darrell Young that blasts past the pits. Now he takes the flag, stays 10th, and the lap time not an improvement. So the flag out. There is the champion liveried Bentley. That's the Marchie Lee Alex Young car, the second of the Phoenix Bentleys. 23rd is a new project, don't forget, for Phoenix, for the drivers as well, switching from Audis into Bentleys. So arguably there's time to be made and a step forward to be taken, but it's good to see the Bentleys on track, the M Sport built cars. And Bentley, a brand, of course, that can trace its sports car origins way back to the 1920s, winning Le Mans, the famous Bentley boys, and you've got 4 more of them for this weekend. Into the pits, Dennis Lin. That's the car, the Lamborghini, that tops the times then, provisionally, at the end of Q1. So the field comes back into the pit road. Now there will be an opportunity for the second driver to get on board, data to be downloaded, any information to be passed on, and then here at Shanghai we will get ready for Q2. Interesting session though to see the type of car that you can anticipate to be the quickest. Also having a look there at the GT4 Mercedes, I should say. Rick Yoon, welcome back to the championship. He joins Reinhold Renger, who's also had a variety of co-drivers this year. He's been on his own for some, he's shared with others on occasions, and Rick Yoon, who's been away racing in Europe this season in the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup, comes back to the Asian Championship and joins the Gripperam racing team. Lots of support for Porsche this weekend as we look back at the highlights of Q1. Field pouring out onto the circuit. Darrell Young's Porsche elbowing its way into the queue. The first one that showed was 808 of Li Chao, but that car in the end ending up 21st. So Chris van der Drift with work to do to bring it up the order in his stint, I fear, in the race. Dennis Lin was on his toes right from the get-go, working his way through the traffic, coming out of that long spiralling corner at turn 1 into the left-hand hairpin at 3. Kink at 4 and on the power. Speed building all the time at this point. 81 looking very strong in GT4. Another pole position for Kinoshita. 2 on the bounce. Takayuki Kinoshita, forgive me. A second pole position in a row. And the BMW Team Studi car yet again topping the times. 9:11 into the pit lane. Shea Davis, an early stop. It took a while for that car to get going, and in the end still struggled, only 22nd at the end of the session. 71 was a spinner, that car being revolved by Zhu Wei. And then Frankie Cheng tried to narrow that gap against the pole man Dennis Lin. He got with just 0.3 of a second being the margin. Martin Rupp to drive the car in the second element of qualifying, and the Audi's proving they've got good pace around here. Another car that was rapid early on but fell away a little, number 18, KCMG Nissan, in the hands of Yuki Taniguchi. That car ending up 15th fastest. For 1 or 2, there was a chance to have a second run. Eduardo Liberati bailing for the pit lane. That car 3rd fastest, the sister, the quicker of the 2. In fact, KCMG Nissan's making its way to the pits with a third of the session still to go. Dennis Lin back out again to try and consolidate that pole position. And number 6, Bentley, the car driven by Sean Tong, switching from Audis to Bentley for the purposes of the rest of the championship season. That car 16th at the end. Liberati 3rd for Nissan, the sister 18 car, having pitted ending the session 15th fastest, and as the checkered flag flew, Darrell Young was one on a real mission coming up to the line, chased by Sean Tong, neither of them improving on their very last lap. So Q2 here at the Shanghai International Circuit is ready to go. Take the same cars but put the second driver in, and let's see who's going to come out on top here. Dennis Lind, incidentally, by taking that provisional pole position, will be the first driver to do 2 this season in GT3, which is no mean feat given the opposition. 1 or 2 still having the driver change to be completed. If you're last in at the end of the first session, it stands to reason that you've lost some of the available time to work on the car, get your driver in. So the canny teams will perhaps bail 5 minutes early and buy themselves a bit more time in the pits. And number 3, Audi, the absolute racing car, ready to go. Martin Rump, who, as we saw at the back end of last season, excels in the wet. Could have done with a bit of rain here, and it's been forecast, but dry today, and race 1 coming up this afternoon. The time is 11:30 local time, and race 1 is 3:30 local time, if you want to set your watches so you know when to watch the race later on. And as the pit lane, the fast lane, gets busier, you can queue. You don't have to be released straight from the garage, unlike certain championships. New tyres going on to the cars in the pit lane, on the pit apron. And in a few moments then, the lights will go green to get Q2 underway. Technicians, the engineers on the pit wall, overseeing all of this. And a 2-minute 6.063 then of Dennis Lind, the time now to compare with, not necessarily beat, because it's a standalone session, standalone grid, but it's going to be interesting now to see how close to that time anybody else can get. So, as you see, 991 Porsche, which will now have Aidan Reid at the wheel of it, trying to elbow its way into the queue. Ideally, you want to be out first, and then you're not in the traffic, but if you can't, then go out last and let all the traffic go. We'll see how the teams play this. There is, of course, the GT3 Silver and GT3 Pro-Am contests to look for, plus the AM GT3 and GT4. So there's a lot to look for, a lot at stake, and the beauty of all of these different sections is that everybody gets something to race against in race 4. So we await Q2 getting underway, and very shortly the pit lane will be open and 15 minutes underway. Potential pole position drivers out of this, well, again, put a pin in the entry list. Martin Rump would have to be one of them. Alexandre Imperatori, Martin Kodrich maybe, if that car's gone quickest in Q1. Tim Slade in the Ferrari 28, Nick Foster in 27, you can't discount either. Alessio Picariello, now he was on pole position here last year. Picariello taking over from Josh Burden for this weekend, driving alongside Anthony Liu, who was 9th fastest in Q1. So that car, number 37, the Absolute Racing Audi, that's got a chance. Marco Mappelli is always quick. Aditya Patel and Mitch Gilbert flattered to deceive rather in the earlier session. Mitch Gilbert got 6th. It was here last year that Aditya Patel had a spin that cost them a potential win and possibly cost them the championship. But Aditya Patel is getting better and better all the time, the Indian driver. Chris van der Drift, inevitably in 808, is a potential pole winner, and so is Raffaele Marciello in the number 888 Mercedes. Raffaele Marciello, who's been a winner in this championship, but now the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup champion after a great weekend at Barcelona last weekend. So Marciello is a potential pole winner out of GT3 as well. We're 1 minute away from the pit exit opening, and as the queue of cars is ready to go at the end of the pit lane, you see the variety, the Porsches, the Mercedes, the Audis, the BMWs in GT4, the Porsche Caymans in the GT4 class as well. We are without this weekend Jean-Marc Merlin and Frank Yu, unfortunately, regular front runners in the class, but even so, it's a very competitive entry. So there is Martin Rump, good to go. So 15 minutes once again, and as the teams prepare themselves, awaiting the pit lane lights to go green, they do now, and absolutely on his toes is Raffaele Marciello, who out of nowhere blasts out of the Gripper M garage and he's first on track, and Martin Rump says, hang on a minute, I've been sitting here for 10 minutes, what are you doing? So Marciello, if that isn't serving notice of intent, I don't know what is. I'm here, I want to get pole position. Out he goes. In fact, he appeared from nowhere. He didn't even go through the timing beam. So Nico Bastian's Mercedes has, but as far as the timekeepers are concerned, Marciello isn't even on the track yet because he appeared the wrong side of the beam. However, we know he's there because we saw him. And 888 trying to get himself to the head of the queue and then pull away and get some clear track space. Marciello potentially for pole position here. Very experienced single-seater racer, Raffaele. He was a Formula 3 champion before coming into GP2, Formula 2. And Raffaele Marciello, who's, as I said, the Blancpain Sprint champion, fourth in the GP2 championship a couple of seasons ago. There he is. So the Gripper M car that he shares with Alexander Matchell, and Raffaele Olello. Marciello is very much the quicker of the two drivers. Not saying that Matchell is slow, the German driver, not as quick. Very few are as quick as Marciello. And he then comes up towards the start of a flying lap, and again you can just tell off the fact that the car is moving around the road so much that he's on a mission. He wants to get the tyres up to temperature on this lap and then go for it before he catches the traffic, which is the other danger. Martin Rump is behind him, and then the next car in the queue is going to be another of the Gripper M Mercedes, which I suspect will be the Nico Bastian car. Nico was another driver eager to be out early when the lights went to green. So out of turn 13 they come, speed building all the way down this long back straight, at the end of which you get to the VMAX point where it's possible to judge the outright speed of the cars, and as they get through that point it's then hard on the brakes down towards turn 14. There is Nico Bastian, who, like Marciello, has been racing in the European Blancpain Championships this season, but not done every Blancpain GT Series Asia round. He's been a winner, and it's good to have him back. Nico Bastian shares with Patrick Niederhauser, the overall championship leader, as onto a flying lap goes Raffaele Marciello then. Goes through, Nico Bastian behind him. And remember, the target time, that of Dennis Linder, 2 minutes 6.063, set in that earlier session. Now, I'm a bit fearful about Marciello here. No, he has been registered. Good. I was just wondering whether, if that was the first time he'd been picked up by a beam, it might put him a lap adrift in the session and not count a flying lap. But no, it's all on target. Everything is good. And Marciello now will start to offer up the absolute best in sectors, I would have thought, as Chris van der Drift in the turquoise Porsche gets out of the way of Aidan Reed. It's almost Leighton House colours, isn't it, on the van der Drift car? As here now, up over the brow, through into turn 6 comes Aidan Reed, the Australian driver. This is the car that he shares with Daryl O'Young. So he turns his way out of that tight turn 6 that opens up, then you sweep your way left through turn 7, and then in a moment it's going to go right all the way through turn 8. Plenty of runoff should you need it at this section of the circuit. And then you've got turns 9 and 10 in quick succession with this little straight between them. So you can either do it as two independent corners, or if you get the line to flow, one long left-hander. Number 19 then, this is now Martin Kodrich. Martin, another convert from single-seater racing. And the Croatian driver comes from karting, from Formula Renault through the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. And this is the car that was fastest of anything in Q1, thanks to Dennis Lind. So it's at the end of this lap where we'll start to see an order be offered up. The next one to look for then is going to be Raffaele Marciello, to see where he is in relation to the end of the lap. He's coming down towards turn 14. So as Aidan Reed's got the lights flashing to say to 37 Alessio Picariello up the road ahead of him, get out of the way, I'm on a flying lap, stop weaving your tyres and concentrate on what I'm doing, get out of my way and don't impede me. We're about to have Raffaele Marciello come across the timing line, so the target time now is set by the Mercedes. It's a 2 minutes 5.581. His first flying lap, half a second quicker than anything Dennis Lind did in Q1, but Martin Rump behind goes even faster. The Audi number 3 does a 2 minutes 5.463, so Martin Rump, perhaps against expectations given Marciello's pace and notice of intent, does go quicker by a tenth. There he is, Martin Rump at turn 3 at the moment. So Raffaele Marciello briefly the fastest, but very impressive lap by Martin Rump. And number 3, Martin Rump, track limits at turn 16, time removed. So he's only done one flying lap, he's going to go. Martin Rump, track limits at turn 16, time removed. And that's on his first flying lap, so Ravin, the race director, is standing no messing here. If you transgress, bang, instant justice. And so Martin Rump loses the lap time. Martin Rump fastest by a tenth, but the lap time set to be removed, and that'll put Marciello back to the top of the times. Now the other car that's going well is Alexandra Imperatori, who is half a second back on Marciello. Nico Bastian is next ahead of Sandy Stuvik, 9.11, in the Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche, car that he shares with Shay Davis. And then Aidan Reid is 6th, Aditya Patel is 7th, 8th is 66, David Chen, ahead of Roelof Bruns, and who is quickest in GT4 at the moment. You've got to go a little way down to find Reinhold Renger in the Gripper M Mercedes. Number 5, Bentley, the Bentley team Phoenix Racing Asia entry now with ex-Grand Prix racer Alex Young at the wheel, the Malaysian. That's turn 16, which is the real danger point for track limits. So many cars being warned, so many people having times removed already, and Martin Rump, having been the fastest, is one of them. Now, how is this car getting on? Number 19, Martin Kodrich, a fairly gentle start-up lap, a 2 minutes 13.8, but Kodrich now has done an absolute best in the first sector. So this, remember, is the car that topped the times in Q1 courtesy of Dennis Lind, and now it is fastest within the first sector of the lap that takes you all the way round to the exit of turn 6. He's about to break the beam at the end of sector 2, and it's a personal best. So it's looking good, this, as Marciello now does go top. We've had Martin Rump's lap time taken away, and so it is Marciello's 2 minutes 5.581 that puts him at the top, but Rump's next lap not as good. Alessio Picariello goes 3rd, and here comes Martin Kodrich. Let's see where this lap is going to put him. He was 22nd at the start of it, and he goes fastest of all on a 2 minutes 5.138, 4 tenths quicker than Raffaele Marciello. So it's looking good for Lamborghini around here. The FFF Racing team, you've got to say, has taken a massive step forward this year. It's a much more accomplished and complete team, and the results are coming. And Dennis Lind and Martin Kodrich working well as a partnership. That car now is the fastest, with the halfway point about to be reached. We're getting towards 7.5 minutes still to go. But 2 absolute bests for Martin Kodrich, putting the Lamborghini at the very top of the times. It's a Silver Cup car, whereas Marciello is in Pro-Am. Don't forget, in GT3, Marciello and Matschul. Martin Rump is down to 3rd, Picariello is 4th, Imperatori is 5th, Vanderdrift now is 6th, Bastian is 7th, Nick Foster is 8th, Florian Strauss is 9th, and Sandy Stuvik is 10th. And that all changes because Tim Slade in the yellow Ferrari there goes up to 4th fastest. Tim Slade on a 2 minutes 5.955. Nick Foster goes 8th in that Ferrari. And on the back straight, there is 17, which is now Jeremy Wang, being passed on track by Sunako Yukishu, who has taken 3 pole positions already this year. So Yukishu going strongly in GT4 in the BMW, and he's fastest already. So Sunako Yukishu potentially on for, as I say, pole number 4 of the season here. He had 1 in Thailand, he's had 2 Japanese pole positions, and is the fastest in the class, although on that lap he doesn't go any faster. 8.08 has had a lap time removed now for track limits, 8.08 being Chris Vanderdrift. So that car that was in the top 6 plummets to the bottom of the times, needs to go again. Yellow flags are out at turn 1, incidentally. So that is going to have an impact on whether people can go quicker. There is the waved yellow, but for which car we need to see. So who has gone off the road and where is the car in question? So pan left, and we'll try and get to an answer. Missing in action, somebody. And there it is. It's the yellow Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari 28, which is Tim Slade. It had just gone quicker, hadn't it? It had just gone 5th and then has run out of road at turn 1 and gone into the gravel. And there it looks well beached. Alexandra Imperatori has gone 3rd with an improved time, 2 minutes 5.840. But he did that before the yellow flags came out. Now, of course, if you're improving in Sector 1 with yellows, Ravin, the race director, may well want a word. There's Raffaele Marciello. Now, Marco Mappelli has done a personal best. No, he's not. He's done an absolute best in Sector 1. Hopefully he did that before the yellows came out, before Tim Slade had his moment. Raffaele Marciello is on a mission now as he tries to get himself onto a flying lap, but the yellow flags, are they still out? They've gone from the timing screen. I don't think the car can be retrieved, but at least the session may be clear. 5 more minutes to go. There is Marciello. He's on another mission for a quick time. So is Marco Mappelli, the man who for a time had the lap record, may still do actually, for the lap record around the Nordschleife in a road car. That is the Ben Porter driven Lamborghini, the AMAC car, with a puncture by the look of it, limping back to the pit lane. So Ben Porter struggles on, but you get the feeling that's his session done, because by the time he's brought the car back and you've changed the tyre and checked for any damage and then done an outlap, the flag will be out. So the AMAC Lambo, where is it in the times? 20th. That, I think, is where it's going to stay, if not worse. Marco Mappelli, an improver, 2 minutes 6.484. I was mentioning him a little while ago. Chris van der Drift has improved once again, up to 7th. Make that 8th, because Mappelli goes 4th quickest. Tyre off the rim of the Lamborghini as Ben Porter limps back. So the order is Kodrich, Marciello, Imperatore, Mappelli, Rump, Slade, Picariello, van der Drift, Bastian, Foster. That's your top 10. And number 51 is effectively out of the session. So sadly, ignore that. Where did the puncture come? Let's see. So Let's Go. He rode the curb, but that was more putting the weight on that side rather than the tyre going over the curb, unless he'd already curbed it on that side, and then as the weight moved across onto the car, that caused the puncture. But either way, it's a long limp home. In fact, it might even take the rest of this 3 minutes to get the car into the pit lane. 66 Mercedes. This now is being driven by David Chen. Max Weiser drove it in Q1. The Amstone racing car. Into the pit lane comes the number 19 Martin Kodrich Lamborghini, and that car remains the fastest. We've got 3 minutes to go. You might just be able to get one more flying lap in if you needed it, but my suspicion would be that car might be done now. We're going to turn it round and put it in the garage, aren't they? Yes. So there we have number 6 Bentley. Now, how is that getting on in this session? This is Jordan Pepper, the young South African at the wheel of it, Volkswagen champion and a successful GT racer in Audis before coming to Bentley this season. Jordan Pepper currently is 19th fastest. And up towards the end of the session comes this Bentley Team Phoenix Racing Asia entry. 32 cars is still a hugely impressive number for this doubleheader for the Blancpain GT Series Asia here in Shanghai. The biggest GT grid China has ever had, even bigger than the days when FIA GT came here. Number 11 is in GT4. It's the Cayman, and that's Tony Fong at the wheel of it, the Cayman Club Sport. Shares that car with Brian Lee, and Tony Fong is currently 5th in GT4. That's the KTM, which has been a prolific car in Europe, in the European GT4 Championship. Never really caught on in the UK to the same degree, although 1 or 2 have been seen. But Dean Kutsamides and now Justin McMillan share this car, and it's Justin McMillan at the wheel of it for Q2. Another experienced sports car racer out of the Victorian Sports Car Series, but he's raced in the Australian GT and Australian Endurance Championship, and races a KTM back home in GT4 of the Australian GT Championship, so he knows the car pretty well. Great to see more and more of the Australian teams coming into this championship, never mind the Asian squads coming across. There is Sandy Stuvik, Lamborghini racer last year for Vincenzo Sospiri's team. And how is Stuvik getting on in number 911? Well, he's 14th fastest at the moment, and with a personal best in the first sector on this lap. So the Formula Renault Asia champion from 2010 hustles on. Euro Formula Open champion as well, Sandy Stuvik, who is the Thai Norwegian driver. Comes then to the end of Q2. We've got, 44 seconds on the clock. That is all. 888, Raffaele Marciello, I think, will be a little bit disgruntled not to be the fastest. He has just done a personal best in Sector 1, but again lost out in Sector 2. But Marciello will be certainly unimpressed that he's not been quite as quick as Martin Kodrich. And Kodrich heading for his first pole position of the season here, potentially. Marciello, though, has not had a pole, has he? Despite the fact we know he's quick, but he's never quite wrung it out in qualifying. Number 3 goes through, which is Martin Rump. Currently 5th fastest. Martin Kodrich, however, is on target for pole. Martin Rump will be up towards the checkered flag shortly as he comes now out of turn 10. Fast straight, brake hard. You've got the left at 11 and the right at 12, which loops you all the way around the top of the circuit here. So Martin Kodrich, the fastest. Keep an eye to the Blancpain GT Series Asia website just for confirmation of these qualifying orders, because as these lap times are being taken away from people, the order might just shuffle a little further. Marciello did bail on that last lap, incidentally. He pitted rather than take the flag on the track, so feeling he couldn't get any more out of the car, he didn't continue. Martin Rump is going to take the flag on the track, but curiously does go quicker, despite the fact that none of his sector times were better than previously. Individually, they were all a bit better. So put them all together, and he goes third fastest, Martin Rump, but slower in each sector than he had been previously. But so up and down were the previous sectors, but that lap was a more consistent one, and it worked for him. Third fastest. That's the car of the day. Martin Kodrich takes pole position for round 10. This is for tomorrow's race. Dennis Lind having taken it for today's. And with the teams now working towards this afternoon's race, it's going to be very interesting indeed. Also factor in, of course, the fact that you've got drivers with pit stops, either as the top three last time out or as newcomers to the championship. And that means that you've got a number of newcomers on 7 seconds, but the two Gripper M Mercedes, the 999 entry, which is the Niederhauser Nico Bastian car for its successes last time out, that gets 15 seconds. 888, which is the Matchell Marciello car, gets 10 for today's race, and 63 of Mappelli and Hamaguchi, 5 seconds going into this afternoon's race. Then you take today's top three and you apply the success pit stop penalties rather than success ballast for tomorrow's race. GT4 topping the times yet again is Sanako Yukusho in the number 81 BMW, so double strike for that car, with Takayuki Kinoshita being fastest in Q1. There it is, and it's that a 4th pole of the year for the hard-charging Yukusho, so a good effort is made. So down to the pit lane, the cars being put under parc fermé conditions. You see the officials putting the little yellow placard on some to say that they're in parc fermé conditions, which means the teams can't do anything to them until the technical team have had a look, just to make sure that all is well. But number 19 then is the fastest car of the morning, Martin Kodrich and Dennis Lind, and Kodrich going in the end 9/10ths quicker than Dennis Lind did. So the track getting rumbled in, I think you can perhaps anticipate that it was going to be quicker, but even so, good effort there by Martin Kodrich to put himself fastest and by some margin. Not so good for this man, Tim Slade, former V8 supercar racer in the gravel. Tim, a quick driver, doesn't often throw the car off the road, in fairness to him, so a bit of a surprise. It may have been that there was a failure. Looking at the tyre marks, I just wonder whether he had a tyre go down or a brake problem, because you can see the witness marks. He's gone a long way off the road, but that was, by the look of it, a problem rather than a spin. So it might be that that requires further investigation to get to the bottom of why poor old Tim Slade was in the gravel bed, former driver for Paul Morris in V8s and then the Erebus Mercedes. So everybody else, I think, has made it back pretty much into the pit lane. Tim Slade taking over from Davide Rigon in 28, who was driving earlier on in the season. There's 27, the sister car, coming down the pit road with Nick Foster having got the car to 10th in Q2. Nick moving from Porsches to Ferraris for this year. 88, Mercedes, the GT4 car, James Tang driving in that session. 30th overall, but 6th in the class in the AMG Driving Academy Team LSH Motorsport entry. It's a car operated by Craft Bamboo Racing, but AMG Driving Academy Team LSH Motorsport is the title that rolls off the tongue. And James Tang, the Red Bull drifter, TCR racer and Asian Le Mans competitor, the man behind the wheel. So everybody in, and Martin Kodrich then in the FFF Racing Team Lamborghini taking pole position. Second fastest, Raffaele Marciello, and third going the way of Martin Rump. Fourth to Alexandra Imperatori, Marco Mappelli fifth quickest, and Tim Slade sixth ahead of Alessio Picariello, Chris van der Drift for seventh. Eighth quickest, Chris van der Drift, Nico Bastian ninth ahead of Nick Foster, Florian Strauss, and then Adderley Fong rounding out the top dozen. 13th quickest, Aidan Reid ahead of Sandy Stuvik, and then Roelof Bruns. 16th, number 8, the ARN Racing Ferrari, Daisuke Aito ahead of Aditya Patel. 18th fastest was Naoki Yokomitsu's Mercedes ahead of 66, David Chen, and the top 20 rounded out by Jordan Pepper's Bentley a long way back. Ben Porter next from Alex Young in the other Bentley with Shirosaka and Iti Berambalakti rounding out the top 24. Then you get to 25th, the quickest car in GT4, 81 of Sonako Yukushu, just ahead of Reinhold Renger. Alex Au next up, third in GT4, ahead of Ken Arata. 29th in number 11 was Tony Fong, and it's James Tang, 30th fastest. So it's been a good start to the day. The teams having free practice earlier on, now Q2, and so we look forward 3.5 hours time to the opening race of the weekend. Let's have a quick look at the highlights of that second qualifying session. Drivers getting on board. Raffaele Marciello out like a bullet from a gun as he dived from the garage straight onto the circuit on McCanning. But despite all of that, and despite having clear track space, he was quick but not quick enough. In the end, 0.4 of a second back from this car of Martin Rump to begin with, but it's Martin Kodrich that tops the times. 9.99 of Nico Bastian. Another good solid run, 9th fastest, 9.91 Porsche. Aidan Reid pressing on in the early part of the session to be 13th fastest. But Kodrich was just looking so strong all the way through and ending up as the fastest by 0.4 of a second, whereas Aidan Reid a long way back, 1.8 second adrift. Even though Porsche victorious here last year, maybe that was more to do with the weather. You get the feeling that they're not as quick this season around here. It ain't looking great for the Weissach brand. What about Bentley? Because the two new cars at the Bentley Team Phoenix Racing Asia squad, number 5 you just saw, Alex Young 22nd, Martin Kodrich in the Lamborghini though topping the times by 0.443 of a second. 86th, Aditya Patel dived into the pit lane, but only 17th, Nico Bastian looking for clear track space in the Grupper M999 Mercedes, but 1 or 2 were thwarted with a yellow flag at turn 1. Tim Slade in the Ferrari into the gravel out of the session. Ben Porter had even worse woe with the tyre going pop and a spin. He was 20th, and at the end he was 21st as he dragged the car back, trying not to do more damage to that left rear corner. Number 6 Bentley, Jordan Pepper at the wheel, and Jordan getting the car into the top 20. In GT4, pressing on was Justin McMillan with the KTM going strongly. Martin Rump on his last lap strung the sectors together nicely enough to go 3rd fastest. And we look forward to race 1 this afternoon. For now from Shanghai, bye-bye.